M.D.C. Well, M.D.C. started out of Austin, Texas. I went down there after I completed high school in the mid-late 70s. And we actually, a couple of people started hanging around with Ron Posner, who was my partner in M.D.C. We started doing a band called The Rejects. We did, and then it kind of morphed into The Stains, and I kind of took over the singing. And we were The Stains for a year. And then we went out on tour like in '81 and realized there were 3 or 4 different Stains around the country. We met the LA Stains, and we decided to become M.D.C. So, you know, the roots of M.D.C. started in The Rejects, went to the Stains, which a lot of people know because the John Wayne single came out with that, and then M.D.C. by the time we put out our first album had already changed the name to M.D.C. Millions of Dead Cops. And, you know, that was in that period of 80, 81, 82, starting out in 79, kind of playing backyard parties and that kind of stuff with the Rejects. And we had a few things that didn't even have a project. We just said we had a name, we'd come and we'd play Blitzkrieg Bop and Talking Heads, kind of cover situations, Anarchy in the UK, but Sex Pistols, and it was fooling around. But before that even, I was in a kind of a Dylan band, Grateful Dead cover band, and that was like 74, 75. And I started strumming guitar when I was in high school, sophomore year, like I was 14, 15 years old. So that slowly, the evolution worked up into 81 full on. We changed the name from the Stains to M.D.C. and that's when M.D.C. truly began. We had done this tour out to the West Coast where we met the LA Stains. We played with Black Flag at the Cuckoo's Nest in the summer of '81. We played at the Wuhay Gardens with the Dead Kennedys one weekend and then with Flipper the next weekend. It was really a 3-gig tour. Actually, we played another gig with the Fuck Ups at a small club in San Francisco. But that's, we morphed right into M.D.C. after that tour. We just knew we didn't want to be the Stains anymore, and being the Fatal Stains didn't really work out, and we did Buck Parrott of the Dicks, he's their bass player, came up with the name Millions of Dead Cops, and it stuck. We just couldn't go backwards once that occurred. And so that is the official start of M.D.C. And as I tell in the book I'm writing, that morphed into the gig with the Kennedys. Kind of, we came and put out our album. We moved to San Francisco, met the scene there, Timmy O'Hannon, Max Rock and Roll, the Soup Kitchens, this place called the Vats where we lived, where dozens of bands practiced and played, and then dozens more stayed there on their journeys. Husker Du to Minor Threat to Butthole Surfers, and while Verbal Abuse, DRI, M.D.C, the Fuck Ups, lots and lots of bands practiced there and played there because it was a kind of a free space, and it was a big 6-story warehouse beer brewery in the Mission District of San Francisco. It was really quite a great thing. And that led to touring Europe with the Dead Kennedys in 1982. And we were officially M.D.C. and had a worldwide following, playing for 2,000 and 3,000 people with the Dead Kennedy crowd. It was quite a great, fun experience. Kind of went from being in a backwater place like Austin, Texas, not even being considered one of the best 2 or 3, 4 bands in the town. The Dicks and the Big Boys were gods, and we were, their support acts, till all of a sudden we started playing thrash and we just picked up the pace and wrote some good songs, and all of a sudden we were on our way. And I try to capture that in the book I'm writing and live the history of it. War, the king of Mass USA! The war, the king of Mass USA! Everything else sucked worse, if you can say that. It really just did. I was trying to schmooze up with the country folk rocker, kind of Willie Nelson, Jerry Jeff Walker. I wrote this song a long time ago called "Ain't It Funny How It All Works Out? Sometimes you're happy and sometimes you're proud." Kind of this, hillbilly New York cowboy, is what I kind of saw myself. And I'm moving to Austin, Texas, and I'm gonna get my country, western, bluegrass, kind of funky, Texas swing band going, and Watch Out World. And that never happened. What I found was the punk rock club, and the people liked my songs with the punks, and all of a sudden I just saying, well, these people like my songs, and they're telling me I ought to start a band, then I ought to hang out with these people, because the other people don't want to give me the time of day. Chasing around Willie Nelson's, assistant manager, it just got me nowhere. And just hanging out with the punks in front of the clubs, Raoul's in Portland, right there on the strip on Guadalupe, right next to the University of Texas, was, it was just a lot of real people just ready to talk it out with you, listen to your song, blah, blah, blah. I met Gary Floyd of the Dicks, and we had like what we call poster bands. Coming soon, the Dicks. Coming soon, the Stains. And we didn't really have a band yet. We had 4 songs, but it was coming soon, and we'd make flyers soon, and even just having that was just, people accepted it. Oh, you're coming, when's the band coming? You try to do that in some other scene. Blues band coming soon. Don't really have it yet, but it's coming, People look at you like you got 3 heads. And, a few different times as I've had it with punk, I'm going to start a blues band. And I do that for 3 weeks and go, fuck this. Punk rock is where where I really belong. And that's where my peeps are. And for whatever reason, I thought I got pissed at the world or whatever, the scene, and I was moving on. That only lasted about a week, a few different times in my life over the last 36, 37 years. And I just realized, what am I talking about? I can do whatever I want, and hence, there was a big thing with me where I always played my songs very country-ish and very folk style, and that's how a lot of M.D.C. was written. But Ron sped it up and did it fast. And then I'd always try to play it myself. I, co-wrote Chicken Squawk with old friends. And it was always written like, every time I come into the store and I'm seeing them chickens by the door, eating dead birds really just ain't for me. It was always kind of written in that schlocky country thing. And, and sometimes I'd go out of my punk safety zone to do it that way. And I just found it fun. I was always more than just a punk. I was a punk that liked bluegrass, who liked folk, who liked country, who liked, I even saw back in the day, things like Jay Giles Band and things like, early metal type things. Late 70s, and I grew up around New York City and kind of was influenced by it all, from John Lennon being nude in the window with Yoko Ono to realizing Andy Warhol was somewhere here and the Velvet Underground was somewhere here and Lou Reed was playing in Central Park, and and I'd go see Jefferson Airplane at Central Park, and some of my earliest shows I saw Three Dog Night, I saw Little Stevie Wonder. I grew up with AM radio, so I loved all that music. Otis Redding and the Beatles. I always felt like I had a background in music that it just like I didn't discover Sex Pistols at 15, and that's what I've been making music ever since. It's like I realized there was the Beatles, I realized there was a Dave Clark 5, I realized there was the Supremes, Michael Jackson. I was raised and fed on all that. Otis Redding, had my first Dock on the Bay, 13-year-old, with my first 1968 single. And it definitely went into the formulating who I became. And punk was where my journey led to, and I spent really a great deal of my life in punk rock, but I didn't start out a punk rocker. I started out with all these various musical influences, and there was no punk rock in 72 and 74 when I found myself taking off my clothes and throwing it in the fire at the Grateful Dead show, say, or hitchhiking 2 states away to go see the band, or go with 500,000 people to Watkins Glen with the Grateful Dead and the Allman Brothers, and going, wow, that's pretty neat. Look at that, Dickie Betts playing with Jerry Garcia, with Robbie Robertson. Wow, this is pretty astounding. So I was brought up with lots of different types of things, and I had older brothers that were totally into Cream, some were into jazz. So I always had a various background. I knew who Louis Armstrong was. I knew who Dizzy Gillespie was at 12 and 10 years old. So, so when I discovered the Dead Boys, I loved them, but I knew there was other things besides the Dead Boys, and the New York Dolls, and I was really thankful for it because they were, not trying to fit and be normal. Punk rock was where the punker, especially 70s punk, really was a lot of people. I don't want to say misfits, but people that were iconoclastic people. And then in the early 80s became more of the crew, and straight edge, and we're in a crew of guys, and it became a little bit more integrated into regular society. But if people that remember the 70s punk, and it was definitely an eclectic band of people, and I totally related to it. And I was just telling someone else in '78 and '79, I saw Ramones, I saw the Runaways. I lived in Austin, Texas at the Armadillo World headquarters. Saw the Dead Boys, saw 999, saw Iggy Pop, saw Patti Smith, saw B-52, saw Devo. I loved it all. And, when I actually started making the music, I started realizing I'm more punk. I like the punks more than I like the new wavers, because the new wavers always had a little bit of an attitude. And I discussed that in the book too. Not that I hate new wave, but it kind of pushed me into the punk camp. Even though at first, I always got that the Sex Pistols were strong, but it wasn't like I'm just a punk. I love Talking Heads, and I loved Elvis Costello, and I just didn't think punk was the only thing. But then once I started making the music, I found myself in the punk world, and pretty soon I was totally in that world. In 82, 84, 86, I kind of missed the 80s British music scene, Bauhaus and, Annie Lennox and all that kind of stuff, because I was in watching Hooskadoo and the Minutemen and Bad Brains and Circle Jerks and DOA and Subhumans and Crass, and that was my world. Sure, there's a lot of them, and I certainly work them into the book. Funny one, classic dude story is how, when I was 80, 81, 82, I developed this 80 and 81 big crush, like many guys have, for X and Exene Cervenka. I'm desperate, get used to it, and Johnny Hit and Run Pauline, and back in the day, and she was in the first decline of the Western civilization. She was the iconic woman figure that just to pine over and say, if I ever met her, I would carry her punk rock pencils to the club. I would flirt her and try to date her, and I'd just be the happiest little bumblebee in the world if she let me kiss her hand, and blah blah blah. I love that woman. And of course I went to the gig, and it was in 81, and they were playing with the big boys at a club called Clubfoot in Austin, and as would be, I'm there with all my friends, we're having a great time, the big boys open, great, I'm there with 20, 30 of my friends, the Offenders, the Dicks, the big boys, lots of other scene kind of people in the Austin scene. There must have been, there was 300, 400 people at the club, but 200 I knew personally, through the Austin scene. I mean, maybe not on a first name basis, but, oh, you're the guy in that band I saw a month ago or whatever. And I got there, and I just had shaved my head into a skinhead. For the longest time, I had a little mohawk, and I noticed, in Texas, people would pick fights with me, and I just got tired of that after doing my punk rock thing for a year, and just said, you know what, I'm gonna act like I'm an Indian, I'm a skinhead, not that skinhead meant anything. It was the reggae skins from the late 70s in England. There wasn't really all the connotations of it, and we really didn't know any in Austin, Texas. But all of a sudden at the show, there is one. And he gets up on stage and tries to rip her off Exene's dress. Billy Doe, am I saying his name right? John Doe, or one of the guys in the band, grabs the guy, they're struggling. The guy just turns around and dives into the crowd. He literally just disappears, and you're looking for him to rise up, and it's like one of these things where everyone's standing up and the stage is up up about eye level or higher, so everyone's so you don't really see what's going on down there, and all of a sudden Exene goes, there he is, and she points at me. And I'm like, and I'm there with a couple friends, they're trying to protest for me. My good friend Buff Barrett, Cindy Melby from the Austin, Texas scene, but lo and behold, there he is, and we're not playing a song till that guy is out of here. Before you know it, there's two gigantic doormen literally carrying me out by my belt and my scruff of my neck. And I'm like, hey, it wasn't me, first you're not taking me anyway, and then and then all of a sudden they manhandled me, and I go, okay, I'm going, and they throw me out. So I'm outside on the street, the show's going on, I can hear the songs through the the side door they had just tossed me out of, kind of bummed out. Oh my God, I can't believe this just happened to me. And then I'm outside, and I saw one of the big boys, and they were loading up their van or doing something. They come out of the club for 5 minutes to check on their van. They go, we're gonna have a party at our house, blah blah blah. You should come over there. We saw what happened to you with Exene. Nobody could tell these bouncers what to do, and and they, Exene wanted you out, and they just threw you out. And so I go to the party, and I kind of chatted them up, and they knew it wasn't me. It didn't look exactly like me, but to some people who think all skinheads look alike, all baldies, and there's only two in this scene, very easily, the guys somewhat look like me, and I went to the party. I'm kind of hanging back. I tell the big boys, did you tell Exene? The guy, Dave from the Stains is here, a big fan, and they thought it was me, but it wasn't really me, and and it seemed like it was worked out, and I kind of remember Tim Kerr goes, so it's going to be okay, Dave, don't worry about it, blah, 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 blah. And I get up, and everyone's kind of queuing up to them, and people are having them sign their shirts, and signing a record, or, gig flyer, or, just chatting them up, oh, you're such a great band, blah, 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 things you'd say to X in 1981 when they're coming through your town. And I finally get up to the front, and I go, hi, Exene, hi, John Doe, I'm the guy that you mistook. And she goes, get the fuck out of here, a second time. And I was just like, oh my God. And this time I just said, okay, I'm out, and the big boy, everyone looks at me like aghast. They knew it wasn't me, but who wants to go up against John Doe and Exene to straighten them out that it's really not. And I go, I'm going, don't worry, I'm just going. I go out, and and then I say, I don't have a point to the story. I usually try to learn something, a pearl of wisdom, but the only thing I can say is I got over my crush with Exene Cervenka. That's how I end the story, and that's like a typical one of my stories. It's not necessarily historically, chronologically, we went to the gig with Who's Could Do. There is a good part of the book where I kind of do that. Oh, we played with Minor Threat, I hung out with Ian backstage, and then we played, and then Zero Boys played, and then, this band played, and then we played, and then Minor Threat played. It was a great show, but a lot of them are just like stories about, I was telling the other one about my girlfriend and I were dog sitting, and it was a dog I didn't necessarily care for. We had a tiny place in this big Great Dane, drooling all over the place. And I was like, oh, honey, did you have to take this dog home? She goes, this guy really needed your help. And I was like, all right, whatever. And of course, we're in this tiny apartment. He would drool. Every now and then he would poop. It was just like, we had 2 small kids in the house. It was dangerous for them. But anyway, we did it. We did a good deed. We babysat someone's dog. And I went up to the Haight on the last week or so. We had the dog. And I had some trouble with the SF skins. And we kind of squashed it, because some bad thing happened. And one of them got stabbed. And it was, they thought I was in on it or, and I wasn't really in on it. There was some Cholo guys came to the gig. And they were zig heiling. And I kind of said something like, what are you guys doing? What the fuck what are you trying to prove? Now you got these fucking Cholos here. What are you fucking doing? You're going to fight 50 Cholos that show up, or you're going to run away and let my gig, let me get beat up at the fucking punk rock show? And I kind of had a few words with the skins, and then almost a minute after I said that, I'm just standing there, and they started zig heiling, and these couple Cholos came along, walked right by, and then all of a sudden they came out of nowhere, knifed 2 of the SF skins.
Oh, wow.
So there's all this bad blood with skins with me, and even though the main skins knew, I really had nothing to do with it. They knew me for a couple of years, and I wouldn't do anything. There was some auxiliary kind of SF skins that would come to town once every 6 weeks, and we're looking for that Dave M.D.C. We heard the fucking story. We're gonna get it. Anyway, I had the Great Dane with me on a walk up at the Haight Street Fair, and they came out of nowhere with like clubs and sticks and like a blackjack club. And, we're going to fucking kill you. And they're coming at me like 10 feet away, 8 feet away, 6 feet away. And I'm like, oh my God, they're going to fucking hurt me. And all of a sudden, my Great Dane, Alex was his name, jumped up and bit all up on this guy named Terry Nohawk's face, and then turned around to the guy Steve who was next to him and bit him in the face. And I had on his leash, and it was just like one of those beautiful moments of serendipity, just the universe is all right, just when you think, the whale's gonna swallow you and you're never gonna hear a Jonah ever again. All of a sudden Alex saved my life, and it's just a parallel. The dog you didn't want in your tiny little apartment that was a pain in the neck that your girlfriend had volunteered for you to take care of ends up saving your ass. It's one of the beautiful things in life. Well, last year I had some health things. I fell down a flight of stairs, and it led to some inner body infections. I had MRSA the year before. If you know anything about this staph infection, MRSA, it's a wicked ass infection. They have superbugs out there, and Hawaii is one of those places where it's beautiful, but it's kind of like a petri dish. It doesn't freeze, so sometimes you have stuff just lingering, and people, Hawaii, a lot of people just live on the beach and live here and there. People poop in the water and, blah, blah, blah. And sometimes you look after a big rainstorm and you go, wow, it's really brown today. And, it took me a while before someone says, you ever hear this motto, shit runs downhill?
Oh.
In Hawaii, shit literally runs downhill off the volcano into the water. And after like a 3-day rainstorm, the water is really muddy. Of course, it's a certain amount of real dirt. And there's a certain amount of fecal matter in there, and you're swimming in there, and you cut your feet up on the rocks. All of a sudden, you've got this fecal water touching your infection,
right?
And things like, MRSA occur. So I had that the year before. I had this dastardly fall down the staircase. I was helping my ex-wife carry a 5-gallon jug of water down a staircase. I should never have been carrying it. Went boom, 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 like down like 10, 12 stairs. Hurt my neck. I still have some neck problems. A year and a half, actually a year. It was last March. And it led to the infection in May, where I was so weak they had to take me to the hospital. Dealing with antibiotics, getting the right one took 3-4 weeks. Getting me to have no sign of the infection took 4 weeks. And then I lived on antibiotics at home for 6 weeks. And anyway, all I had for a long time in the hospital, I was visiting on the East Coast was my iPhone. And here I am doing a commercial for iPhones, I guess. But I had no other way to communicate with the world except my Facebook account. I hope Steve Zuckerberg sends me a check. And you know, and do it with my iPhone. And I started telling the story of this or that, and I'm just putting it on Facebook. And all of a sudden, I got a lot of likes and a lot of comments like, you know, put this into a book, I'll buy it. And I a couple other times had started to write a book and just didn't get very far, but I got introductions writing, you know, I got the first chapter written, and then I had been a zine columnist for Maximum Rock and Roll back in the late 90s and early 2000 years, and I had written some of the things there, and people kind of liked what I was saying, and I took a few of the best of those and recycled them and gave them you know, writing it in now time for an era past gone, you know, put it with that perspective. And then with, you know, capturing, like I said, the stories of me getting into punk, 1982, going out to play with the Kennedys, going on tour with the Kennedys to Europe, doing Rock Against Reagan, and then the band breaking up in '84, and our original guitar player, Ron, leaving the band for many years. You know, kind of, I captured all that, and then I started sticking in stories that happened through the mid-'80s, late '80s, early '90s, late '90s, right up into 2000s, and into the present, and then talked about tours and lineups that happened, especially a lineup that an album was produced. I felt like, you know, these are part of, I try to include everyone who ever played with M.D.C. A couple of people got by, but those people played one show and stopped showing up to practice, or, you know, stuff like that. And there, believe it or not, there were a few of those. They didn't make it into the book, but, you know, anyone who stood with me through the years, just some great lineups and great people. At certain points, I was the only original member of M.D.C. Through the years, Al was, and Franco was kind of like a co-original member with Mikey Donaldson, and on bass duties. And Ron came back to us in '89, then came back again in 2000, and 2003 actually. And we've been together, Ron and I, and with Al some of the time, with Al not some of the time. He's got some other things going on in his life that make it hard to do a full-time band. And Ron and I, happy to say, from 2002 to 2015, with the exception of 2 or 3 years, have done between 85 and 115 gigs a year. So we've been at it, and we love it. And I've taught, I've substitute taught. I was a special ed teacher for some of the years in between. I parked cars in New York City. I was a janitor in a gay bar in San Francisco for years. So I've been a jack of all trades, and, you know, I just haven't supported myself with the band. I out and out taught for about 4 or 5 years of my life, from '99 to 2004. And in those months, I was really only touring in the summer and spring break and this and that. And they were more like 50, 60 gig years. But I love the band, probably going to do it the rest of my life. I might take a year or two off. Mike and I do M.D.C. acoustic. We call it Mike and Dave Country sometimes. We play some new songs we've written that have, it has a more acoustic, of course, feel, but also with a lot of harmonies. And then we take things like old classic songs like John Was a Nazi or Chicken Squawk or Soup Kitchen Celebrity that are known through M.D.C. and give them the way I kind of, most of the time, wrote the song. Ron kind of like sped it up and, you know, thrashed it out. But, you know, my versions that I handed him was, this is what I wrote, you know. And John Wayne was a Nazi, like to, and he would do, you know, and he sped it up and gave it his edge. And Ron Posner has been my partner with M.D.C. In the very beginning and the last 10 years. The very beginning would be the first 6, 8 years. And I'm really, very thankful that he's doing it with me. And He's not here right now, but he's one of my 2 or 3 best friends, and been a partner of mine for 35 plus years, and very fortunate to have met him. Political guy, hardworking guy, straight up guy, honest guy, and always has been, and very.
Cancer's livers, cancer's kidneys, stomachs and livers. Oh, they don't give a fuck. Just wanna make.
Yeah, actually, I came up with the title "My Family's a Little Weird," but and then I wanted to do like punk fear redemption kind of thing, but my editor Stan Mueller kind of suggested memories or memoirs of a damaged civilization, and we've kind of been going with that. We haven't made the final decision yet. It's one of the last 2 or 3. It's the one we're kind of leaning towards, but we'll see. If something comes out of the frying pan at the last minute. I'm open to it. I didn't think of doing it as an M.D.C. title, but it kind of does make sense from right off the bat. People will go, oh, it's the guy from M.D.C. writing. It'll be punk fear, and then in small writing, tales of punk fear redemption, and so yes, that's the name of the book, and I kind of described a lot of the book, and I kind of finishes the last chapters. I'm in the hospital, and a friend has come across country to be with me, and I'm kind of like, the first 3 or 4 days in the hospital, I had a sodium deficiency, and I was totally running a high fever and was delirious and hearing voices, seeing things, and hallucinating, and it was almost comical because I knew it wasn't really going on, but that's what I was really seeing and feeling. And they'd have the psych nurse come and go, still think it's snowing in the room? I go, of course it's snowing in the room. You don't see it, of course, but I know it is. So, that's just where it's at. And, and then just, it's kind of like a rebirth, going to this hospital room, having these doctors talk about you in front of your face, but not to you, because you're out of it, and with a friend of yours who's a nurse telling you could die, Dave, wake up, snap out of this. You need to focus on health and coming back and living and joining your friends back out in Portland and doing your band and teaching and saving the animals and all the things you like, and get out of it's snowing in your room, there's a gremlin living in my air conditioning duct, I want to go swimming, just let me go swimming and let me be, I was going to take a long swim off a short pier, so to speak. I just kind of lost the whole, kind of thing. Why am I fighting this if I got some infection that's never going to go away? Fuck it. And they're part of the redemption, and a more steadfast feeling that I am on a mission from God, that I do care about humankind, animal kind, and I may not change the world, but I'm gonna try. And whether it's through songs like Chicken Squawk, or through touring, or through a mass movement of people, maybe 100th monkey theory, which is there's a theory of 100 monkeys would eat dirty fruit and vegetables, and then all of a sudden anthropologists and zoologists noticed some monkeys started washing them in a few different places, and then all of a sudden, at a certain tipping point, all monkeys all over the world started washing their vegetables, and it became like 100th monkey. It's almost like intuitively they were able to communicate it across, one colony of monkeys did it, but another colony 10 miles away didn't. All of a sudden they were all doing it. And hopefully, there's this hope that with humankind, an epiphany is going to happen where we need to save this planet, treat each other well, not rape our children, not beat up women, not be racist sons of bitches, not be selfish, people that think liberty means I can destroy the planet, and if I got enough money, then it's okay, because it truly is not okay. And I hope I'm part of the epiphany. And if not, it's late great planet Earth. We gave it a good try, and I just came here, like a humble person trying to live and learn, and change and evolve, and learn love and learn how to love, and that's what I want for everybody. And we'll see if it happens. Maybe we're going to be Star Trek living in space with tribbles, and I don't know. I really don't know. But I'm going to love elephants, and I'm going to try to love humankind the best I can. And that's what M.D.C stands for. We're a social, political, active band that's for the egalitarianism, for healthcare, for safe being of all people and animals on this planet as best we can, as ecologically as we can, as fairly as we can. I'm not going to say, well, there's going to be no fish hatcheries or whatever, but, this mass slaughter of large mammals, whales, elephants, rhinos, all that is just sickening to me. And I'm part of the human family that wants to change that, and actually, sometimes I sink into nihilism, but I come fighting back and say, no, nihilism's not me. I don't want to die a drug addict. I don't want to be a bitter old soul. I want to be part of the human family that's got some hope in its heart and punk rock in my soul. I'm just trying to be a humble grasshopper that's just doing my thing, that hopefully is getting parts of it right. And I've learned my modes. There was Gandhi before me, and there was Martin Luther King, and blah, blah. I'm just one of the many extras that has come in the past. And if I'm part of something that's a groundswell of something good, then I'm proud of it. And but I don't like to take credit for it. M.D.C has changed the world. I don't. My ego reminds me that I'm not. It's not about that. It's about hopefully getting to a safer, better place. I love all you people out there looking at the camera. Just really do. And that's my promise. I will not turn into a hater. And I won't turn into a selfish son of a bitch. I don't need much in this life. Simple room. I live in a simple little house with my bass player, and we got cats. And I've had friends come. I say, hey, put up a, Erin Cookman lived here for like 4 months last year. She's a folk artist. Met her the year before, and she said, I want to try to come out there and make it. And we said, come. So the house expands. We've had a trailer on the side. We had someone living there. The county told me they didn't want it, so kind of eliminated it. But as long as I have my lettuce and good vegetables and love of a few good people, I don't need a lot out of this life. It is nice, I am lucky that, people still care to see my band, and we have tours to Europe going on. I get to be in the jet set proletariat, but even if I wasn't, I don't need a lot in this life, I swim in the Clackamas River, that's like 6 miles from here, and I just like life. I'm very lucky.
You the boys gonna want to help, get the loosen up in my bones. Yes, those are loosen up, I'm here in the toes.